So the second one is about managing debt. And in managing debt, I just want to come back to these headlines just to bring it home a bit more. So if you think about the 1 billion shillings that people were borrowing every month on Fuliza loans, what that meant is that, and Safaricom charges a 1% interest daily. So Safaricom was easily making 10 million shillings from each and every one of us who was accessing these Fuliza loans. So you can immensely see how big this is business for Safaricom and the banks, and that's why you see these advertisements in TV. They want to entice you in terms of how easy it is for you to get the loan. Just install the app on your phone, just dial star blah blah blah. You'll access your know what your limit is today, and if you fall into those traps, just see how much money they can make, and how big the opportunity is to them. So it's important for us to aim to have good debt. And just to bring it home a bit, we'll differentiate between what good debt is and what bad debt is. So good debt is, say, for example, you take a loan to buy land, to buy mortgage, because that usually appreciates in value, and therefore that is good debt. If you take a loan for you to invest in your education, that could help you to further your income, that's also good debt. If you take debt to invest in a carefully chosen business, and here business is we have to be very careful with it, because people a lot of time take loans to invest in businesses that are not well thought through and all those things, and they end up being stuck with a debt that doesn't necessarily help them. So if you do take time to research the business idea, be sure with it, test it out first, and then only take the loan to grow the business. Then a business loan can be good debt. And then lastly, if you find an opportunity where you could take a loan for you to invest the money, say for example in something that gives you a higher return than what you're paying in interest, then that of course could be good. But then on the other side, there is bad debt. And a good example is what we see a lot of times people doing. So they take car loans. Cars are usually depreciating assets, so they decrease in value as time goes by, and you're stuck with a loan on an asset that tomorrow is worth more than what it is worth today. Secondly, is a credit card. So we get easily enticed with you can access a credit card, your limit is increased, those kind of things. And credit card debt usually funds lifestyle gaps that we have. So in case today you really want to buy this new TV and you don't have the money, then you think, okay, I'll take the money from the credit card and pay it slowly over time. And that's an example of bad debt. Mobile loans, as we spoke about, we've seen the Fuliza example of how much Safaricom is doing. Usually also these fund lifestyle gaps, and these are also bad debts. And then lastly, we have cash advances that you can get from your employer. You apply for an advance on the 15th, knowing your salary is coming on the 30th. So unless it's an emergency, you should really avoid these things, because it simply means that if you do take a cash advance today, then your salary will come less what you took as an advance. And of course, that means that you'll have to find more money you'll have to take another loan for you to pay what you lost in terms of your income. So good debt, key things is that it helps you grow in value. It's usually within your budget. And remember, we spoke about preparing a budget, and it usually has a low interest rate. Bad debt, on the other side, usually funds your lifestyle. You want to be seen as a certain caliber or a certain level of a person. So that's what bad debt usually funds. It usually fills expense gaps. So when you do your budget, you find, okay, I have a gap of 2,000 or 10,000 or whatever the amount is. Then you take on debt to fill your expense gap. The problem is you'll be stuck in that debt forever, because you'll always have to find another 10,000 the next month, because that expense gap, you've not filled it in a sustainable way. Then usually bad debt is also unplanned and not within your budget. And sometimes it can be backed by a depreciating asset, in the example of a car. So how should you build a plan for you to clear your debt, and what's the most effective way for you to do it? So if you do have debt, then most debt you should be able to make a plan for you to clear it within 3 years. If not possible, it can be 5, but at the same time, just it's about starting and the journey. and sticking to it, and less about the time period that it takes. So there's two methods for you to clear debt. The first one is called the avalanche method, and I'll explain it what that means. It's simply that you pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first. So in this example, you have somebody with credit card debt that's at 1.5% interest rate monthly, which is about 19 and a half annually. You have a mobile loan that you pay 3% monthly, which is about 42 and a half annually. And then you could have a car loan that you service at 14% annually. So using this method, the payoff sequence for your loans is that you'd work towards paying loan number 2 first. And after you've paid out loan number 2, you then pay out loan number 1. And then lastly, you'd pay out loan number 3. So that's a simple sequence that you'd use in the avalanche method. There's also what we call the snowball method. In the snowball method, what happens is you pay off the debt based on the size of the loan. So just adding a few more details to the same examples you've looked at. So you have a credit card loan that's 10,000 shillings at 1.5% monthly interest. You have a mobile loan that's 50,000 at 3% monthly interest. And then you have a car loan that's 100,000 at 14% interest annually. So in this particular case, because you're starting with the smallest loan and working towards the biggest one, what happens is you take the first loan, you clear it, you then go to the second one, you clear it, and then you go to the third one and clear it. But there's two factors to consider in order for us to understand what is the better method of these two. So number one is the interest exposure. So how much do you pay back to your financiers as interest? So for example, if we use the snowball method, the mobile loan, which is just 50,000 shillings, but at 3% monthly interest, you're actually paying more in interest monthly compared to the credit card loan that's, yes, smaller, but at 1.5% monthly interest. So that's why it's important for you to understand how much interest you're paying. And I don't want to go into a lot of the math to understand what the actual interest value you're paying is, but it's important for you just to look at the numbers and to understand what that looks like. And then secondly is the time value of money. Just to explain in the briefest way is that a shilling today will not cost the same as a shilling tomorrow. It will not buy you the same as a shilling tomorrow. So the sooner you can be able to clear your loans, the lower you can get your interest rate to be, then the more you'll be able to achieve by you clearing your loans faster. So based on these two factors to consider, what we then find is that the avalanche method is usually better than the snowball method. So in case you have different types of debt, so do go back to the contract, look at what each of them is charging you on a monthly, on an annual basis, and then from there, work out which one you need to clear first. And then once you clear a loan, let's say you are paying 1,000 shillings every month for your mobile loan, then once you do clear that, don't take that 1,000 and put it into your expenses or decide this is money for you now. Take that same money that you are paying on that loan and then add it as an increment on your second loan that you're now working towards finishing. So in this case, if it's, for example, the credit card debt, then you'd move, if you're paying 5,000 for your mobile loan every month, then you move that 5,000 to become an additional payment to your credit card debt. So if you are paying 1,000 for your credit card, you'd now be paying 1,000 plus the 5,000 you had from your mobile loan, which would be 6,000, and it will enable you to clear your credit card debt faster. And then once you finish your credit card debt, then you take the full 6,000 and then put it as an incremental payment on your car loan, and you'll be able to clear your car loan faster. And this, for most people, when you do this math, it usually works out to clearing your debt within 3 years.